Coaches, are you ready to revolutionize your game preparation? For the past 5 seasons, coaches across the nation have been using the ultimate scout team game changer, the Coachpad. Imagine this: no more scrambling on weekends to prep scout cards, no more fumbling with paper and binders. Whether you're drawing your cards digitally with a computer program or sketching them by hand, the Coachpad is your all in one solution. Picture yourself on the practice field effortlessly managing your scout team or standing on the sidelines during game day, syncing adjustments from the press box to your coaches on the sideline and back. With the coach pad, you can clearly see your scout cards even in the brightest sunlight. No more squinting or dealing with the wind blowing clear vinyl sleeves everywhere. This offseason, take your coaching to the next level. Get your coach pad today at thecoachpad.com and gear up for a winning season ahead.
Welcome back to another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast. As we get started today, please make sure you check out our sponsor, Coachpad. Like, share, subscribe, all that lovely stuff, so we can other people can find this podcast. Today we have the offensive coordinator at Andrews High School in the great state of Texas, Coach Brink. Coach Brink, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Excuse me. I'm doing good. I'm doing real good. It's good talking to you as we kind of got set up and ready to go. And like I said, talking about the great state of Texas and West Texas, particularly, kind of a different area, but a beautiful. I say it's beautiful, but I am also just partial just to the great state of Texas, and just kind of the different weather that's down there. But I mean, how did you end up as the offensive coordinator there at Andrews?
So, my story is a little bit different than some. I actually played in this offense when I was in high school. I played for our head coach, who I work for now, and so I played in this. And he actually worked for Bruce Bush in the early '90s, and so we had a little bit of experience and some background running the offense before we implemented it 2 years ago, but. So this is my 10th year of teaching and coaching. And before last year or 2 years ago, I just coached the defense side. I coached defensive line, and then I moved to secondary when I moved here to Andrews. And so 2 years ago, after Coach Harvey's first year, we decided it's time to do something different. Andrews had been running the air raid, true air raid for 10 plus years. The guy that, Coach Harvey, he was the defense coordinator here for a long time. The guy he worked for was an air raid guru. And when he retired, he took over to be the head coach. And we tried to still run some of that stuff year one with him. I coached the secondary. And after that, I was just like, I think it's time to try something different. And so he promoted me to the offense coordinator. And from there, we went to work. We went and visited coaches. We, you know, just really amped up, like, just learning this offense, and we're still learning it today. Just the little wrinkles and things like that. But so um, that's kind of how I got into this role. I became the offense coordinator, offensive line coach 2 years ago here. We just did our second season in the slot T. And so that's how I got to be the offense coordinator here at Andrews. And so
Like, I mean, and continuing with that, like, I mean, obviously you played in it, so you have experience in that aspect. And like going from there, like, I mean, what else drew you guys as slot T instead of not run? I mean, obviously air raid, but you could have gone any other spread direction. There's other certain options. Like, besides the fact that you played in it, like, why else did you and your coach kind of say, "Hey, slot T is kind of what we need here"?
I think this is probably one of the biggest, like, why the slot T. And like you said, we could have went a numerous different ways. We could have went and done the flex bone. I've at one point I worked for one of the best option coaches in the state, Coach Guy at Wall. I'm now friends with the guy at Midland High. Does a great job. There's vast resources out there to run the flex bone. There's a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, this is what our head coach knows the best. And then this is what I know the best. And so why the slot T? It's at the end of the day, it's because this is what we know as coaches. We're getting to where we know the problems, we know the answers, we know the adjustments, we know how to coach it, I guess. On a day-to-day basis. We know the drills and the implementation and the install and things like that. And so to me, that's the biggest part of why we run it. There's a ton of other different reasons why, but this is what I believe in. I believe it in, wholeheartedly. Like, this is what I think gives us the best chance of being competitive week in and week out. And I think it's a great program offense that can, sustain year in and year out for a high school program.
Okay. Now continuing with that, like obviously you had playing experience in it, so I think that kind of gives you a good base knowledge. Um, like I think kind of any of us, anytime you plan something and you kind of implement it as a coach, like you have a better general understanding, but maybe not all the details. So like when you guys kind of went through that process, because I think this is a misnomer of the slot T is that it's so secretive, but in reality, like I think I've kind of shown a little bit with some of the other interviews I've done, like it's a very inclusive group that will help each other. So like when you guys were kind of looking, okay, we want to go from this air raid to the slot T, we have our base knowledge, but where can we go for help or work on the little details? Who were you like? Where did you go? Who did you guys kind of reach out to? Was it just Liberty Hill or was it kind of other people as well?
No, there's a couple other people. Like, before I moved to Andrews, I knew I wanted to eventually move to the offensive side and take over. And so a guy named Alan Hare, he was the head coach at Salado. Now he's the head coach at Gerald. He put out a series of videos of the slot T, and I bought them and I watched them several times. I started taking notes, and when we made that decision, he was the first one that we went and visited. He was at Colleen Chaparral, and we went down there and visited him, me and Coach Harvey, and we connected because him and our athletic director are good friends, and so we used the connection there. And of course, he's just a great guy. And so we went down there, we spent a day, we talked to him, you know, got some things going. And then later that spring, we um the guy who was at Liberty Hill at the very beginning, Jerry Vance, who took the slot T there in the early 2000s, our head coach, Coach Harvey, worked for him at one point too, is good friends. He obviously knows Coach Walker, who is the head coach there now. And so we use those connections. Hey, can we come down and watch when you guys do spring ball? And there's absolutely. And so we went down there one morning, and they're fortunate enough, Coach Hall, the offensive coordinator there, he was able to take the day off. So we watched first period athletics, and then we sat there for a few hours to just, ask questions and learn more and some things like that, and kind of just refined our knowledge and things like that. We took it back, and we just kept working and working. And so, and then last spring, we listened to a guy named Dale West, who's at Bell's High School, give a clinic. And of course, we started talking with him. And so there's 3 or 4 other slot T coaches that I, you know, routinely check in with and ask questions and like, hey, we're seeing this. Like, we struggled with this. What are you doing on this? Like, hey, this isn't making sense. Like, what adjustments will you make for this defense and things like that? And so we visited those guys, but Liberty Hill, as everyone knows, that's the place you want to go. And so we still go down there every spring. We're going to go later this spring and go visit with them, and they've just been phenomenal. So the day one that we went down there, when we left, Coach Hall was like, I'll send you these game films, I'll send you our practice films, I'll send you our cut ups, I'll send you, our rules, I'll send you, he sent us practice scripts. And so that was just monumental. Just having that, was just such a huge help. And they still will send us any, like, hey coach, could you send us this game? And they're more than willing to send anything to us. And so they've been really phenomenal in helping us out.
You probably don't know the exact number, but just out of curiosity, how many schools do you think still run the slot T in Texas? Like I got a rough count for somebody that's probably around 50, but would you say it's about right, wrong, more or less? I mean,
Um,
you might not know, but I'm just curious as we have this conversation.
So I know, like those I just mentioned those 4 or 5 schools. There's another school kind of in Central Texas, Franklin, and they run it and they're winning state championships left and right. They're just on a different level too. They're a 3A school and they run it. And they've put several people in Division 1 college football. Like they've had several go to Baylor, SMU, I think. They have some phenomenal people and coaches there. Belleville, they went to the state championship like 2 years ago. They do a really great job of running it. um, those are the ones that are kind of at the top of the game right now that I can think of. There's more down there, down South Texas. It's just there's a ton of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say at least 50 or so that run it. And every once in a while you'll see it pop up here and there. There's a private school in Corpus, they've contacted us and they're running it too. So there's quite a few smaller schools out there that run it that I'm probably just not aware of.
Okay, I was curious. Like I said, I just thought about that as you were talking, like just kind of spurring that conversation. I mean, now I'm curious about it because I've talked to a couple on here, and like for you guys, because I think everybody's probably a little different on probably what they prioritize. Like in terms of series, like what is kind of your like I don't want to just necessarily just say install order, but like, what is your install process? How does that had did that change? And I'll rephrase it this way: did it change from year one to year two, or like, what did? How do you approach install for this? Everybody's got their own process. Doesn't matter the offense. Every offense has got their own, and even within there, like even like I'll use the air raid people as example because it's an easy example. Like for the hardcore purists, it might be mesh day one, but others it might be stick, whatever. So like what is kind of like that look like for you guys, your kind of process and order for install?
So we it has kind of evolved since we first started this. When we first started, we installed like when we first started that first spring, day one, we kind of started working with like our 200 series. And that's not a bad way to go. But then we talked to Liberty Hill and I asked them what is like at your 7th grade junior high, what is the first play that you install? And it wasn't part of the 200s. It was part of their buck sweep package out of the A set. And so at that point we kind of switched gears. And so now, our day one install, we get in what we call the A set and we install we call them the 400s. Everyone else calls them 300s, but it's the trap sweep waggle series. We're installing 8-hole reverse. We're installing the trap. We're installing buck sweep to the quick side. We're installing the quarterback buck sweep back to the strong side. Waggle throwback. That's our day one install, and that kind of went along with what Liberty Hill does. When we asked them, what is your install progression? And so that's what they start. And so to me, we start with the A set and we make sure we get our series and we install by series because it's just all, concept based. And so a lot of these plays have a lot of carryover. So like 3 or 4 of those plays, the backfield action's the same. So you get one in, now you get another one in, you got another play, now you got 3 plays installed. The blocking up front, rules wise, 2 of the plays are blocked the exact same. All right, great. Bam, we got 2 plays installed. Now we got this play, now we got this play. And so it's all kind of concept based, I guess. And that's the way we install things now is, you know, um, what plays can we install all out of our A set and what plays out of the A set fit together. So those plays will go first and then probably our 200 series because we run them out of the A set and they're all series based and their concepts are the same. And then we'll kind of go from there. and branch out. We want to try to make it as easy and cheap as possible when we install, I guess is a good way of putting it. That way we get more bang for our buck. Like, all right, we got 2 plays installed now. So that's kind of our philosophy when we're going to install.
Perfect. Now, continuing with that, like, I mean, I again, we could talk X's and O's all day long, but like, I think when you don't factor in, and we talked a little about this before we came on the air, and I think we've kind of hit a little bit, is kind of how you teach things and why you teach things are kind of the more important secret sauce than it is the actual scheme. Because again, you can figure out scheme, watch enough film, or at least get close enough to it. But like when I look at like you look at personnel, like you coach offensive line, for example, like when you're looking at your offensive line group, how are you selecting personnel? Because I think that's the bigger part of it is like, and I think a lot of slot T coaches will agree, like you're not looking for the gigantic mauler kids. Like you got to be able to move in this offense. Like you just have to. Like so kind of like what is your process particularly for like selecting offensive linemen and maybe your tight end positions too?
So our day one, our probably our most important position that we um personnel first is our guards. They're the premium. We're gonna probably, we 2 platoon here at Andrews, so we split our kids. We got offensive guys, we got defensive guys, and we have to kind of make I don't know if concessions is the right word, but like, there's kids that both sides of the ball want, but we're gonna get our guards first, and we're gonna look for certain type of guards. They got to be able to run fast. The past 2 years, our guards, we've been fortunate enough. Our first year, we installed it. We had juniors at guards, and they were really good. They're really athletic. Our strong guard was about 190. He ran close to 5'140", really strong, really athletic. Our quick guard was about 170-ish, 175. He was running a 4.840, could really move. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for really fast offensive linemen. And sometimes, we'll take a fullback who maybe third string depth chart fullback, and we'll move them to guard. Also, we'll kind of look at like, hey, this kid over here, he's a third string linebacker. He may not be quite fast enough to play inside linebacker in our defensive scheme. That's why he's third string. Like we can bring him over and play him at guard. And so we place a lot of emphasis at guard because they have to be really athletic because we pull, kick, seal all the time. They got to be tough. And so that's probably where we start personnel wise is who are the guards going to be? And then we look at the backfield, like who's the quarterback? Okay. Because regardless of what we do, like every other offense, we want a really strong leader to play quarterback. And really center, quarterback, fullback, they all have to be pretty smart kids because they're the only group that doesn't physically flip with the formation because we flip sides, we flip our straight. And so it makes it easier for all the other kids. Okay, when we get left set, I'm going to the left. I know what I'm going to do. Those 3 guys, they don't ever move. So they have to flip it in their mind and be able to think fast. And so, we kind of look at that. We want a bigger center, but he's still got to be able to scoop. We got to have a great scoop step, but we want a bigger body at center because with so many people running an odd front, we don't want them just to be able to put a big nose right there and just bully us over. And then, with our backs, our 2-back, our tailback, well, thankfully we haven't had to have a whole lot of discussion because the kid we have there, he started last year as a sophomore, and he is a phenomenal kid. He is a Division I athlete. He's got a couple different offers in schools, and so but pretty set and dry right there with him. Super fast. He's the one that a lot of our plays are designed to get him the ball. And so that's who you want, probably your best best overall back. Our fullback, we want kind of a smaller guy right there that's really fast and quick, and more so quick than fast. Um, we had a kid that we tried to play last year, some at fullback. He's fast, but he wasn't quick. It took him a couple yards to get to that top speed. His top speed's really good, but we want to be able to run the trap, and we want to run those quick traps really as fast as possible. So we want someone that's just really explosive. And that's what we want at fullback, kind of a smaller body that can fit through those narrow creases right there. Because we'll trap a one technique, we'll trap whatever. And then our halfback, he's our bruiser back. He's the bigger kid. We're gonna punish you with him. And so that's kind of how we look at the backs. The tackles, we want our quick tackle to be able to run quite a bit too. He probably could be a third guard, if that makes sense. So if we have another kid that's a guard type, we could put him at quick tackle, because we do run a lot more quick tackle trap with him. Our jet sweep, he's getting out on the edge, he's ripping and running. And so we need somebody that's athletic, that's fast. And right now our quick tackle's pretty athletic too. I mean, he's right around a five flat 40. And so then our strong tackle, he was our bigger body last year. They do more base blocking than anybody else on the offensive line. Not as athletic as the other ones need to be. And so, kind of a stronger kid. That's what we'll put at strong tackle. And then at our strong end, our tight end, sometimes that's a third tackle for us, basically, that gets to wear a lineman number. But the biggest thing with the tight end, he's got to be able to down block. He's got to be able to base block and down block and some things like that. And so that's kind of what we look for our strong end right there. He's got to be more of a blocker than a receiver. We're not trying to make him a 1,000-yard receiver or anything like that.
Can you repeat one thing though for me? Because I this is something I love when I talk to anybody that runs under center. You said you had somebody with a D1 offer, didn't you?
Yes.
See, like that's the misnomer I hate, because like, oh, that offense doesn't translate. If you're an athlete, colleges will find you. It does not matter. So I just want to point that out there, just for
Well,
anybody listening to this.
what's funny is earlier this spring, I think North Texas came by, some other, like Clemson's called, Tennessee's called, and they call and talk to our head coach, and every time, we have a quarterback that's coming up that's pretty good, and our coach is like, we run the slot T. Is that a problem? No, it's not a problem at all. Like that's not a concern of us. And what's funny is our tailback that has the D1 offer, they're looking at playing him slot receiver anyway. So
Yeah.
it's like, um,
I just wanted to point that out because again, it's that misnomer that the media and other non-open-minded coaches talk about, when in reality it's, if you can ball, you can ball. They're gonna find you.
right. And our kid definitely can. We have a couple that they come by and look at, and they're really good football players, and this kid definitely is. And so down the street at Midland High, they run the flex bone. They have three D1 kids. They got a kid going to UTEP, they got a kid going to Army, and then they have this offensive lineman that plays guard that he has several Division I offers. And so it's just like that good players are going to get found regardless of what system we play in.
Correct, 100%. And I couldn't agree more. And again, but you said that, and I wanted to point that out because I wanted to make it clear. Like, again, and the same thing for like, just again, now get me on my tangent of parents and other people, and I'm just going to ignore that right now because that's going to get me on a tangent, coach. But again, I just wanted, I could kind of continue with that, because I do think, I mean, I think you did a good job at hitting on the personnel there, and um, with that, does and because you talked for wings and things, you're 400 and a couple, and yeah, you had a couple different topics there, but you had the four topic. I'm curious, before we get into that, is when you're looking at your series each year, how much does again, because you have ideal personnel and you try to fit guys where you best, as you kind of mentioned, kind of what you're looking for. How much does that D1 kid or having a plethora of guys or say that quarterback that's coming up that's going to be pretty good affect what series? How often do you call a series? How much does that alter some of that stuff? Or is there a particular series because you have that D1 kid that you're like, ooh, he fits this mold a lot better?
Well, a lot of our, I don't have a percentage, but like a lot of the plays go to the two back, go to our slot anyway. So, it's just kind of a natural fit right there to put him right there. But uh what's great is, we can get him the ball in a couple different ways. Um And so, and what's great about him is he can run the sweeps, he can run the toss, he can run the tackle trap, he can run the jet sweep, he can run our speed sweep. And so, we try to get him the ball quite a bit. Because he's a really good player, and that's what coaches do. They get their best playmaker the ball as much as possible. And B, that's just kind of the offense just naturally, in my opinion, revolves around the two back a lot. There's a lot of plays to try to get him the ball. And in my opinion, a lot of our dynamic plays are centered around him. And so it's not necessarily difficult, I guess, calling plays. We kind of go in with like, this is what we're going to run. We kind of have a feeling of what defense they're going to run against us. We come up with 6 different defensive looks every week and we practice against all of them. And so when it cuts to the game, we have our first 10 plays scripted, and after that we kind of can figure out what the defense is doing, and then it just kind of just goes on by that point. I don't know if that necessarily answers your question.
It does.
I will say, like in our area playoff game this year, the team that we played, they had a really great game plan to shut him down, and they did a really good job of keeping him contained and limiting him running the ball. But that opened up everything else for us in our playbook. And our quarterback had a great night. Our fullback had a great night. Our halfback had a great night. And so, don't get me wrong, our stud, he had a couple big time catches and stuff for us. But we used some other things. We came in there and it just kind of showed like this offense really is a 3-4 headed monster. You can try to take him away, but we do have answers. And that goes back to why we run this, because we identify the problems. We know what the answers are to those problems, and we can make those adjustments. And that's goes back to a perfect example of why we run this offense, is because at this point a lot of us have, we're starting to get a lot of continuity together as a staff, and we know those answers to those problems, and we can make those adjustments as we go.
Speaking of staffing, I'm curious, how do you break up offensive staffing? Like, again, you just spurred that question to me, like, 'cause I don't know if I've ever even asked it, even Coach Bush or anybody else that I've had on. How do you break up staffing when you look at the slot T?
So we are fortunate here that like we have a ton of offensive line coaches. I coach offensive line. Um, Another guy that was here, that's been here, he coaches offensive line. Um, we hired 2 new guys this past year, and they're both offensive line guys. So essentially, we have 4 offensive line coaches, and we have 1 back coach. Um, Now, I went and kind of, I guess, double dip. I would go with the offensive line, and then I'd go to the back some too. But by trade, I'm an offensive line guy. I've had to learn, and this is one of the things that, like, I talked to Coach Kilby the other day, and we were discussing some things, and I'm just like, why isn't this working? Like, we're blocking it right, like just beating our head against the wall. And he's just like, well, look at the handoff. It's not, you're snapping the ball too early. You're handing it off too early. And I'm just like, yeah, you're right. Like, didn't even think that doesn't even cross my mind. The problem on that is, I immediately go to the offensive line. And so, but coming up this year, we're fortunate enough to hire another coach, and he's going to coach backs. And so we'll have two dedicated back coaches. And then on the offensive line, one of our coaches, he coaches our swing man, which is our backside tight end, and our quick tackle. And then, excuse me, another guy, he coaches our center and our two guards. And then another coach coaches our strong tackles and strong ends. And then I kind of, that frees me up, just kind of float around. Like I can watch whatever we need to. I typically stay with the center and guards if we break up, or I go with the backs. And so that's kind of how we break it up as an offensive staff. And then the backfield, like next year, we'll have a coach watch probably the quarterback and the fullback, and then another one with the two back and the four back. That's not set in stone. We still kind of have to figure that out, but you know, that's kind of how we will break that up.
Okay. Now, kind of going to like, I don't necessarily want to go through the entire 400 series because again, you did a whole clinic on that, and I sat and watched a good portion of it. Like for people who want to go like pull that up or go buy it from Wings and Things and all that jazz, like kind of what is the 400 series, and kind of why was that kind of your choice to speak on?
So that's our buck sweep series. That's the series that we run our trap, our buck sweep, and our waggles. And like I said, we caught 400s, but if you talk to any other slot T guys, that's their 300s. And so, but anywho, that's Rick Stewart. He just asked me to speak on that, so that's why I chose that. But like that clinic I did, that's our base one. That's our day one install. Those plays, 8-hole reverse, which is a strong side buck sweep. And then 449, our quick side buck sweep, our quarterback buck sweep, our quick trap with our fullback, our throwback, and our waggle. Those are all, day one install for us because, like I said, they're all run out of a set. They're all part of the same concept series. The backfield action's the same. A lot of the blocking up front's the same. And so that's I guess that's why I spoke on that, because I feel like, when you play a slot T team, you're gonna get buck sweep to the quick side, you're gonna get trap, and you're gonna get 8-hole reverse. Those are just kind of the staple plays, in my opinion, of the offense, and then when you add the 200 series in there too, like that's what you're going to know is going to come, what you got to prepare for when you play pretty much any slot T team, in my opinion.
Now I'll ask, and you don't have to answer. Why do you guys call it 400 instead of 300? Is there a reason behind that?
Yeah. So it kind of breaks off like there, you know, the slot T a long time ago. Like our head coach is from Artesia, New Mexico, and it was ran there for a long time. And then it was ran by a guy named LG Henderson. And I actually worked for his son in Artesia my first 4 years of teaching and coaching. And he retired from Artesia, New Mexico, and he went down to South Texas. Um, he went to Alice. People like Jerry Vance, he's from Hobbs, and he went down there too. And he called it the 400 series. And I don't know where it changed or what, but we just stuck with that numbering system, the LG Henderson numbering system. That's why we call it the 400 series and not the 300s.
Now, the part I really want to get into, and like I said, it was kind of like the last two things, and like what what does practice look like? Like practice drills and various things, because obviously you have enough staff to support your kids. Like I don't think that's and talking to, I mean, when you have that many offensive line coaches, if your offensive line can't perform, there's something wrong. That's a whole different issue. But like particularly like offensive line practice, like what does that kind of look like drill wise and function wise Like I get a sense because I've never seen slot T practice, but I get the sense, especially with buck, a hole reverse, trap being parts of your offense. Like obviously there's some carryover when you talk to wing T coaches, obviously because of buck and trap and waggle. So kind of what does the practice piece look like for you in terms of like O-line practice?
So this is kind of where I think we differ from like Liberty Hill. I I like individual. I like having a lot of indie time. Um, if you talk to them, they do more teamwork and stuff than necessarily like individual. They have some stuff that you could classify as indie time, but um, they're more a lot of group and team and timing. And we still do that too. But one of the great things about two platooning like we do here is, when we practice in the morning, we practice. It's close to an hour and 45 minutes for varsity practice. We get an hour 45 minutes of offense. And so we get a lot of indie time, which I love. I like having an indie time. And so being the offense coordinator, I get to schedule indie time. And so, but anywho, what we do with that is we'll start underneath the cage and we'll do our board work under the cage. We'll do right foot, left foot lead. We'll do our glide steps. We'll do our scoop steps. We'll do our pull steps. Um, all there may be one or two I'm forgetting. I'd have to go back and look at our schedule, but we'll start into the cage first thing in the morning at 6 a.m. when we start. It's bam, we're under the cage. We're firing off. We're running our feet. We're body surfing on top of these rugged squares, shooting our hands, and so it's full speed from the get go for us. So we'll do that, and then we'll work what we call shot and follow. We're still underneath the cage. We're exploding, using our hips. We get kids holding scoops underneath the cage. And so, we're working 6-point shot, 4-point shot, shot and follow. We're driving some things like that. We'll do that underneath the cage. And then, we try to find certain drills. I'm a big drill guy. I like running drills. We'll try to find stuff for down blocks. We'll try to find stuff for, our pull kick seal. We'll do stuff that what we call a touchdown block drill. So that's all kind of part of indie time for us. The backs, they will start off and they will do some more traditional running back drills than maybe some other teams would. They work a lot of ball security drills over there. They work a lot of, pocket drills because sometimes we have kids that want to just kind of grab the handoff with their hands and not make a pocket. And so we drill that. And I don't know what all he does over there because I'm with the offensive line. He does a great job, don't get me wrong, but I just tell him, hey, you got 3 periods of drills and then do backfield timing. And so then they start doing backfield timing where they're running their plays with just the backs and working timing. And then we do, when we get together, we'll do pods or half line. And so like one of my favorite things to run is what we call our buck pod or our sweet pod. And sometimes it'll just be I can pull it up right here. I got on this
Right.
presentation. Let me find it. So this is like our sweet pod. And we'll set it up to where like in this drawing, we have all of our backfield with us and we'll have the center and the 2 guards. And, we'll set up, these are defenders with, okay, so this right here is a live shot of it. We have the hose out there. We have we have these arches or hurdles, whatever you want to call them, and we'll drive underneath. We'll kick out. Here we're running buck sweep to the left, and so here's our fullback, or I'm sorry, our 4-back. He's in a wing position, so he's going to get a down block right here on this guy. We're working a down block. We're going to work our pull. pull kick right here, pull seal right here as well. And then our center is blocking base right here on this nose. We put towels down right here by our guards. That way they have to step over that towel and run. That way they don't put their foot right back underneath them. And so as you can see right here, we're gonna step right over that towel and we're gonna run. And we run everything on this line right here. Like you can see right here, our quarterback, he opens up too much. He's way off this line. That's not what we want. We want to be more square, toes on that line when he cowboy steps right there. And so that we run this a lot. This is our buck pod, and we're running everything. We have it right here. We're in a left set, and we'll run this. Just working our pull kick seal, pull kick seal, pull kick seal a lot with our offensive line, with our guards. We can work some of our tags with this too. And then I usually stand right here where the seal guard has to get around me, where this double team will take place, and fit up on this linebacker right here. And they have to get underneath these arches enough to where they're working that kick out. We put this kick out right here on the other side of the hose to where they have to pull and then dig down into that line of scrimmage. We tell them, your aiming points to the adjacent hip of the offensive lineman. We're working a power right here, but so let me go back. So his pass should be more down at an angle. That way we don't want them to get underneath us. They can run upfield all they want. They run upfield. We believe that they're not going to make the play. We're going to cut it up underneath them anyway. And so, this is one of my favorite drills to run. The strong ends, swing man, and tackles are over here doing what we call a touchdown block drill. They're on the backside of these sweeps, trying to get across the field and kick out the third level defender. I don't have film. I have a drawing that I can show you here in a minute, but this is one of the things that we run as a drill for our buck sweep. And the great thing about this is we set these arches up one way, and then once we get done running our left set, now we've gone back to let me get to it. Okay, so now we're in a right set. We're running buck sweep to the quick side here. We didn't have to change anything on our drill. We just flipped the line basically. And so now we're in strong right, and we're running buck sweep to this quick side. And so we're getting reps both ways as fast as a lot of reps, and not having to reset this up or having to set up two different drill sides. We just set up one side and then we'll just flip the line. And then maybe the next day we'll do it and we'll set them up this side. So where, when we run our strong side buck sweep plays, we're in right set, and we want to run our quick side buck sweep plays to the right, we'll be in left set, if that makes sense. But this is one of the drills that we run to work our buck sweep, our pull kick seal. And some days we won't bring all the backs over. We'll just have the quarterback and fullback and the two back and the four back. They'll go with the other offensive linemen and they'll work down blocks with them, because they do a lot of down blocking in their position. So we'll have them go with offensive line coaches down there. We'll just work pull kick seal with the guards, quarterback and fullback. They'll work their mesh right there. We won't have a back to hand it to, but we're still working our pull kick seal a lot right there. And this is, we'll do this for 8 minutes probably. And we get, just tons of reps, and kids are just rotating in and out. Let's go, more. And you can see, like, we have, the varsity kids are in gold jerseys. Our JV kids are in black jerseys, and freshmen's in white. And so we have just, everyone in our program is practicing and everyone's getting reps. And so, like, not many kids are standing around. We got kids holding shields. And then, we're snapping the ball, they're getting up there, we're running the next one. So there's really not a whole lot of standing around, and more kids are getting reps and more kids are playing ball and things like that.
That's perfect, Coach. That looks, again, anytime if you gave me access to people huddle, that's probably the first thing I would want to watch is good practice film, because again, you can learn a lot from it.
And so I don't have film of this, but like what the other guys are doing at the same time as this is our touchdown block drill. And so we'll put them on the 4-yard line, and we have 2 offensive linemen. Like, here's our tackle and here's like our strong end. And then we'll have 2 defenders right here holding these rugged squares. And so like they're mimicking a sweep to the right side, and they're on the back side. And we want them to get across the field and find these 3rd level defenders to kick out. And so these guys we'll have them line up different ways: inside shade, outside shade, head up, and like they have to get off the ball. If it's an inside shade like here, we teach to run off that hill line, and then we tell them to get on their 4-yard highway. And so that's why we put the ball on the 4-yard line, and they run across the goal line, because these guys, they're playing about 8 yards against us. These safeties, these 3rd level defenders are 8 to 10 yards off the ball, sometimes 6, sometimes 5. Really just depends on what defense we're getting. But most of the time they're coming up the field pretty quick on the snap. So we're trying to get across the field and mimicking kicking out that 3rd level defender. So this group will go, and it'll just be a big rotation at that point. We do a lot of half line. I've gotten to where I really love coaching half line, because we get so many reps at half line. And so a lot of times we may half line our strong side plays, because our strong side power plays, because we don't work them as much as we do our traps and our sweeps. you know, we, you know, we run a ton of trap and sweep drill during practice, and so we get a ton of reps like that. But sometimes we still feel like maybe we didn't get enough reps running one of our tags off our buck sweep. And so we'll half line it. And so this allows us to really get focused on like one side. So now, instead of a coach having to coach 2 or 3 players, we will divvy it up, and one coach will watch one kid a lot of times. And we'll really work like, all right, hey, that first step's got to be better. We got to get a flatter path right there, things like that. And so we really work a lot of half line, and I've gotten to where I really enjoy coaching half line. I think there's a lot of benefits from it.
Yeah, I grew when I coached smaller school ball. I grew a great appreciation for half line stuff and what you could get out of it. Because again, when you're at small schools, like if you want to get a good look, that's usually the best way to get your
Exactly.
looks.
And year one, we didn't have as many. We had like 3 offensive coaches, 3 or 4, and so that's why we utilized half line a lot, because we could then get really focused on a couple different things, and or we watched the game film like, man, we weren't very good at this. What do we want to do? Let's half line and get more reps at it and get more eyes coaching on it.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of group work like this. We do trap and sweep drill every day. We started working this waggle drill this year because we weren't very good at waggle. And so we just take, once again, kind of the center and the 2 guards and the quarterback. And these are cones right here. He'll pull, he'll log, he'll run the question mark right there. Quarterback's got to give his trap fake, his sweep fake. And then we put a cone at 7 yards. And he's got to drop back 7 yards. He's going to come around, and then he's going to attack the line of scrimmage. And we just have another quarterback down here that he's just going to throw to. And then the quarterbacks just rotate like that. And so, like, this is our waggle drill that we work right here. And I think this really helped us really get better at running the waggle with the quarterback mechanics. Like, I'll stand right here and I'll coach up that quarterback. Like, as soon as he gets on that break, that ball needs to be up by his ear. He needs to attack the line of scrimmage right there. and get downhill, some things like that. And so we'll work this waggle drill some, not every day, you know, but whenever we feel like we can fit it in, we'll work this. The offensive line are down doing more cage work and stuff. But this right here kind of help with the quarterback mechanics and the guard mechanics of running waggle for us. Just really working those hips back down through. And our biggest thing is we want to get out here and we want to attack that line of scrimmage and get downhill in a hurry, because if that corner who may be the flat defender, if he bails and tries to go deep right there, there's nobody there. And we tell that quarterback, just tuck it and run it. And so we want to be working downhill that way. If we do have a green light to run, we're already at full speed going. And then kind of finally, our cage drill that we use, we have 2 guards here, 2 backers, and we lay some rugged squares down right here. We have an end, and we'll just continue to work more of our pull kick seal. Play side guard will pull, he'll kick right here, this end. This backside guard's got to find these linebackers. Sometimes I'll send this linebacker to scrape right here. Sometimes I'll have him bail, and this backside linebacker is going to fill. Sometimes I'll have them just both flow, and it just turned into a kick and a kick. And so that's just kind of some of the stuff that we do drill wise. If there's anything else that we might come up with, obviously we have no problem running those types of drills in Indy or whatever. But that's just, I don't know if that really answered some of your questions or not.
Perfect, Coach. That was perfect.
I can go in more depth or whatever you want, but those are just some of the things that we do. The biggest thing that we found out in year 1 was just really how expensive buck sweep is, and how much you have to work that pull kick seal. And it's not enough just doing it in sweep drill. So we find other times to work that pull kick seal, and that's why we put premiums on our guards, because they got to be able to run. And our guards, we have these things we got this year, I don't know what they're called, but they're like catapult. They track the kids running. And
yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Our guards are running about 4 miles, close to 4 miles of practice. And so they are just dog tired, and so.
Well, it goes back to like conversations I've had with other guys on and off camera about just like going back to what you said earlier about your guards need to be able to move. Like they need to be able to run. Like big bulky guards are not going to work in this system. Like and like I think those kind of I love that what you said there is bucks expensive, and I think any any coach that runs any form of buck sweep would probably agree with you, because there's so many details, not only with backfield footwork, but like, okay, here's when you kick, here's when you log, here's when you seal. Like there's just so much into it. Okay, now if kind of like you showed with that thing, well, if this backer over scrapes, it's look inside to the other one. Like there's so many details that you don't, from the outside looking in, really think about, but it's just so expensive. The last thing I want to ask you is, and this is like me, a personal thing, to be honest, is pregame. Because everybody does pregame differently. Every offense is pregame differently. And even teams that run the same offense run pregame differently. So I always look for, okay, is there a better way to do things in general? Like, it's just how I think. Like, because again, scheme. Like, we all can learn scheme, but if you can't teach it, it doesn't matter. Just like if you can't prepare kids, it doesn't matter. So, like, how do you offensively approach pregame from a week to week period?
So the 3 years that I've been here, both as a secondary and then offensive coordinator, we've had so many discussions about pregame and what we wanted to do. And, when I worked at Artesia, our philosophy, like we didn't go out and warm up very much. Like we were on the field very little, and we really adopted that here. And now, so we kick off at 7 o'clock. So now quarterbacks and centers, I think the quarterbacks and centers out. Obviously every offense brings their quarterbacks out to begin with to warm up throwing and stuff. We bring our quarterbacks and centers out. We bring the centers out too. And, like I said, we kick off at 7 o'clock. I bring them out at 6:08. And so our whole approach is less is more, really, which you could boil it down to pregame. We'll watch people, they're out there like at 5:15 or whatever, they're warming up. We don't, the first guys on the field are the quarterbacks and centers at 6:08, and we'll go out there and we'll snap. We'll just get under center snaps for like 5 minutes. And then after that, like the specialists will come out and they'll do their warm up, like the traditional high knees, things like that. Once they come out, the centers will go back in the locker room, barring unless if it's like a super long way. And the quarterbacks, I'll take them over the sideline and we'll just get our arms warmed up. And then after they kind of thrown back and forth to each other for a few minutes, we'll get in the middle of the field. And I've started doing like a waggle drill with them. And so we'll put the ball on the 35 and everyone's still warming up there in their line and stuff. I'll have some of our JV guys or whatever to go stand on down there like at the 20, and we'll work our waggle steps where they're dropping back. They'll have to run around me 7 yards. They're working downfield. They're throwing the ball down there. We'll work both sides. And so we'll do that. And then let me I had it pulled up somewhere. And then at like 6:20, the offensive line and D line come out, they stretch. And then at 6:25 or so, maybe closer to 6:30, we'll do like indie. So offensive line warm up, like we'll go through our steps and stuff. We'll do some blocking and stuff. And then, at 6:30 or so, maybe a little bit after that, the defense, they'll go team D and they'll go over some looks or whatever, run a few plays. And then at like 6:40, we'll run maybe 10 or so offensive plays, back and forth across the field. And, then we'll do a special teams. And then like at 6:45, we go back in. And so we really don't spend a whole lot of time in warm up. When we go out, everyone has their pads on. Everyone's in full padded. Everyone has their shoulder pads on. We don't carry our shoulder pads out there and then put them on halfway through warm up or anything like that. And so we've just really taken this approach of less is more. And like we're really out there for maybe 25-30 minutes actually like warming up. And this year we've started, because we were just kind of racking our brain, like, we're not seemed like we're ready at home games. And, we're a little bit more focused on away games or what, we seem like we played better on the road or whatever the past couple years. And so now what we do is the kids get here, they have to be at the locker room like at 4:30. And I think this made a huge difference for us. The kids, they'll bring their blankets and their pillows and stuff. And like, we'll turn off the lights and we make them lay down for about an hour and a half and like take a nap. And so like they can have their phone, they can listen to music, but they're not watching videos. They're not up running around. They're not, it's a time for them to just take a nap or whatever. And we get them up at 6:00. Once 6:00 hits, turn on the lights. All right, let's get dressed. 8 minutes later, quarterbacks are out there. And so we've kind of just really streamlined that process to where there's really not a whole lot of time for, high school kids, they're going to want to be on doing all sorts of stuff. And so we've kind of taken those distractions out. And, the kids have been up at the school since 7:30 that morning. They've gone all day. It's 4:30. And so, we make them lay down, take a nap. And I think that's kind of the reason why we played better on the road, because, we'll travel 2.5-3 hours, and most of those kids, what they do, lay down and sleep on the bus. And
Yep.
so We just feel like that's been huge for us this year is, just forcing them to lay down, take a nap, right before pregame. And they're just so much, fresher. I feel like there's not any, mental fog or anything like that. They just kind of get a restart for a little bit. And so it's just really like this whole day. And when you asked the other day, and just like less is more when it's come to pregame for us. That's our whole philosophy, kind of like when we go practice, we don't stretch, we just get going. And so that's kind of what we've adopted in pregame is we're just gonna go out there and kind of get warmed up a little bit. And, it's just what we're gonna do.
Now, perfect, Coach. Well, coaches, one, give Coach a follow on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it at the moment. I've not adapted well at all because I don't know, I'm mentally lazy, whatever. So that'll be in the bio. Like I said, Coach will follow Coach, reach out to Coach. Coach got back to me really quickly. Coach did a great job. Obviously showing that stuff. And like I said, if you've not seen his Wings and Things presentations, both of those are good. And I believe Coach has put on his contact information there. I'll put his email in the bio too. If you want his phone number, you're going to have to look at the video. I just have a pet peeve about putting phone numbers in bios. So, like I said, you want his phone number, look at the video, his email, and his X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, will be in the bio as well. Don't hesitate to reach out to Coach. Again, the slot T group and just coaches, I think coaches in general are good about sharing and helping each other. Not even just a slot T group, but just coaches. At least these good coaches are. So don't hesitate to reach out to Coach, like, share, subscribe, all that crap. So YouTube, it's found on YouTube, and other people can see this. And then check out our sponsor, Coachpad. They've done a great job at sponsoring us for the past couple of years. So we can forward the Zoom and the the Premiere Pro that we can edit this stuff in. So otherwise, that's another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast.